Anyway, I came back after dinner and I couldn't turn it over. Show you something. Welcome to my shop. This is where it all happens. Today we're working on a 1948 model John Deere A tractor. My father bought this new in '48. That makes it 73 years old. Anyway, it runs like a top. It has a little oil leak on the pump of the power troll. Once I get that fixed, I'm ready to paint. I primed some areas. I'm still cleaning some areas. But the Model A John Deere was a real workhorse. And I'll be showing you more later on when I get farther in. I've got the front wheels off now and I've got them primed. And it's just a good old tractor. I would like to tell you about my 73-year-old John Deere tractor Model A. Belonged to my dad and I farmed with it. There's a story I'd like to tell you about it, and it's a good lesson. It's a lesson that I learned. Anyway, as a young man, as a kid, I was out cultivating corn. We cultivated 2 rows, mounted cultivator, front mount cultivator on the John Deere A, and you're cultivating on some contour strips on the farm, and you're kind of on hillsides. Well, it came dinner time, and they came and picked me up for dinner, and I shut the tractor down right there on the rows where I had quit, and it was sitting there, as nice as could be, pretty as a picture. Anyway, I came back after dinner, and I couldn't turn it over. I thought, what is wrong here? And a little investigating, I found out that the needle valve in the carburetor had stuck open, and the gas from the gas tank, which probably had about 10 gallons of gas in it, had filled the pistons and gone past the rings and diluted my oil in the crankcase. So at that point I realized I didn't shut off the gas like I should have. Well, I shut the gas off and I had to drain all the oil out, took the spark plugs out, they finally drained out of the piston, had to get new oil in it, and sure enough, starts right up again with new oil. And I learned a lesson. On these old tractors, especially this John Deere, which is gravity feed system to the carburetor, always shut the gas off when you're not using that tractor. Otherwise, you're going to find that everything in that crankcase is full of gas. But that's pretty interesting, I thought. I learned a lesson the hard way. Another story I'd like to tell you about the John Deere A. Cutting hay on a dry year. I think it was a number 5 Sycamore. I'm not sure mounted. I'd have to look in the shed. It's still sitting there. Anyway, you could go a pretty good clip. I started out in 3rd gear, and I think I was going in 4th gear when it happened. Might have been 3rd. I don't remember anymore. All I know is the foot brakes on those are run off the bowl gear inside the transmission, and there's a right and left brake. Well, all of a sudden, when I was going along, the little gear on the end of the brake on the bowl gear is held on by a cotter key. That cotter key fell out somehow, and the gear finally worked off that shaft, the brake shaft, and fell down into the crankcase and wedged underneath the bowl gear and between the engine transmission case, the casting. And when it's hit that, it wedged in there, it stopped the tractor automatically. Threw it out of gear, stopped it dead right there. It stopped it so fast, I was steering, I fell forward and I chipped my teeth on the steering wheel. That's how fast we stopped. But yeah, we took it, I pulled the back end off the tractor, and that was the major thing that we ever did to this tractor, pulled that back end off. And sure enough, there was the gear, hammered her out, put it back on, pulled that brake out, put it back on, put a new cotter key in, put her back together, and away we went again, cutting hay. Another thing that's kind of interesting, these tractors run at a real slow RPM. Those two pistons there, they're just going so nice and slow. And the bearings are really big on that connecting rod in there. And there's a book of shims in there, so you can make them tighter. If the bearings get loose, you can take out some shims and make it fit better. Well, that's fine. Well, one of the bolts on the cap of the connecting rod came loose one time out in the field. And of course, boy, it started rattling and knocking, and what the heck is this? Right out in the middle of the field, you take the plate off the top of the transmission, or the engine housing there, the gear case, you take it off, you look in there, and sure enough, you can see all the shims there. And there was that loose bolt, so I had to stick my hand down in the bottom of that oil pan, way down in there. I found the bolt, cap screw and everything. Took the shims, and we turned it by hand, the flywheel, in order to get it so it would just have a little play in there, very little. Tightened her up tight, put the cap back on, and away we're going again in the field. That's one thing about a John Deere. The farmer could fix it himself. That's the older tractors I'm talking about now. You could put it together and be gone. You could put a clutch in this thing under the maple tree out in the yard in about an hour. Today, you got the newer tractors, you have to split them, and I don't know, over $100 an hour. You don't want to spend too much time doing it. But in the good old days, 1 hour under the tree and we could put in clutch plates. That's just something I wanted to share about my old tractor today. You keep watching, there'll be more.